Hi, welcome to another episode of Talk with Confidence. This is where we have inspirational conversations with inspirational people. Today I've got another inspirational guest. His name is Daniel Shatty Mashego. He's an author and a speaker. Daniel, welcome.
Welcome, Confidence.
Thank you for accepting the invite. We're really excited to have you here.
Thank you for the privilege.
Awesome. As I said in the intro, you are an author and a speaker as well. And you've got two of your books here today. But before we get into the books, I just want to chat a little bit about who you are, how you got into the writing industry, the writing game, and how it's been going. I know you from a while back. I'm also a fellow author, speaker. So we've interacted quite a bit, and you told me the story of how you got into writing. Can you just relate that story to the viewers?
Yeah. Thank you for the confidence, for the opportunity, Confidence.
Sure.
So basically, I knew that at one point I will write, but I did not know when exactly. But you know, at the right time, at the opportune time, it felt right to start writing.
Wow.
Like the first 2,000 words for my first book, I wrote them overnight for 2 days.
Wow.
I couldn't stop. But initially it was not to say I'm writing a book. I was just writing my thoughts based on the observations that I've had in the past week or so. Then after writing 2,000 words, and I said, why can't I make it a book?
Yeah.
And that's where I was consciously saying I'm writing a book.
Wow.
Black song, it's okay to be black.
What were the instances, or what had happened in that week that inspired you to go into the writing?
So I observe a lot of interactions between people, and you know where our country comes from, and you know the socio-economic challenges that we're having in our country. So observing all those things, I found myself writing a book about that. Yeah. And
just before we get into the book, do you believe that there's a writer in everybody or an author in everybody, or is it just for specific people? Do you believe anybody can become an author?
I think anyone can be an author, but the degree of expertise will differ. Some will be born authors. They can just sit down. Like me, I did not go to school to be taught on how to write.
Yes.
Because it was an inborn thing. I just sat and I started writing. But with a little bit of coaching and teaching, someone can be able to write a book, I believe.
Wonderful.
If you're not able to, you get someone who can write it for you. That's how these guys do it. They get a journalist and he writes for
you. You just narrate the story, and then they put it in words in concrete form.
Yes.
Wonderful. Okay, our first book that we're going to look at is Blacks Only, It's Okay to Be Black. Very interesting title. I mean, when one reads the title, you already have an idea in terms of subject matter. But can you get into the details? Why this title, and why do you feel this book, it was necessary to write this book?
So in this book, I talk to all South Africans, but primarily to my black folk.
Yes.
You know our history, you know where we come from, you know the damage that apartheid has done to us. And we are still with this very damage. And you see in how we relate, you see in how we do things. And I'm trying to address some of the issues that we need to work on. But at the same time, hence the title, It's Okay to Be Black. I'm trying to say, there is nothing wrong with you. There are issues that we need to fix, but accept the person that you are as a black person. Don't try to be white, don't try to be green. We've got issues as black people. Appreciate who you are, but at the same time, let's deal with 1, 2, 3, 4 so that we can become a better community.
All right. Yeah. And some of the issues, like the 1, 2, 3, 4 issues, can you go into some of the issues that you observed? And you say this needs to be tackled, this needs to be dealt with. What are some of those issues?
So in the book I talk about the 4 mentalities.
Yes.
I talk about the entitlement mentality. When you go into our communities, when you go into our townships, you'll realize that this mentality is very rife. We feel because the Afrikaners robbed us of our minerals, resources, economic power. Now that the black government is in power, we are entitled to everything. And hence you see people fighting and crying and demanding houses from government. That's the entitlement mentality that I'm talking about. You also look even in our academic space. I was listening to one show on one particular radio channel. This lady has got a degree. She can't find a job. Her auntie said, they're employing people in Pick and Pay. Can't you submit your CV? The lady was offended because she feels she's entitled to something great, something corporate, because she's got a degree.
She's not willing to start small.
She's not willing to start from the bottom, and that's what is killing us. I talk about that entitlement mentality.
Just on that, it's a very good point, because you never know if she had submitted there. Then the door is open. There could be a corporate position available within Pick and Pay that she could submit a CV, but because she wasn't even willing to go through what looked like a small door, then she didn't get the opportunity to access other things inside the thing. You know, when one opportunity opens, it opens up other opportunities. But just as a side dish to that.
No, that's true. I once stayed in England. When I came back, it was struggle to find a job. The only job that was available, it was a call center job. I'm coming from England. I've got pounds.
You base study.
I've got honors degree.
Wow.
And the job that I could find then, call center. And when you go there, they call you Baba D.
This grade 12. There's an elderly gentleman. But I
had to do that. And while there, I was able to get an opportunity within the same company.
Amazing.
And then I started working as a process expert, something that I wanted to do.
Amazing.
That's why Martin Luther King said, whatever you do, do it to the best of your ability, because you don't know who's watching.
Exactly.
That's why starting as a tailor is not an issue. As long as you do it to the best of your ability, people will see and will recognize you.
Wonderful. I like that. I like that. Beautiful. So beyond the entitled mentality that you tackle, what are some of the other issues?
I also talk about what I call the exhibitionist mentality.
Okay.
Now, you know, in our black communities, we like nice clothes. Fancy clothes. And we are poor. You know, if somebody will say black people in South Africa are poor, sometimes you'll find that person and say no.
But
by looking at how we dress, we want Levi's, we want all these big clothes. And yet we don't have money. We want to drive these fancy cars, but we still stay in shacks. So I'm saying that has to change, and it has to do with apartheid, because we're trying to say during the apartheid time, even if you are oppressing us, we are still intact. We are okay. But now we were fighting a wrong battle, and now even after apartheid, you see people spending money on cars, on clothes, and yet there's no investments. They don't have proper properties and stuff.
And I believe one of the reasons is because, you know, when a person or a community or a nation has been denied something for so long, the moment there's a little bit of excess, then there's excessiveness.
Yes, that's true.
So when a little bit of excess, now you've got access to credit. Previously, you were not even allowed to earn more than 5,000 rand or whatever it was. Now you've got, you're in a particular income bracket, you've got access to credit, and now you are maximizing everything. You are being excessive, whereas if you're a bit more wise about it, you could save up, you could invest, and then you get real wealth, not just the material, fleshy, what seems to be wealth, but when in fact it's not wealth, it's poverty in a deeper form, in a deeper form and a deeper sense.
Connected to that, I have a chapter where I talk about spending habits in our black communities. To say, because we try to live this life that is not ours. I mean, we've got what we call black diamonds, middle class. We are in Sandton, we're driving flashy cars, but we are drowning in debt.
Yeah.
It's credit cards, it's personal loans. We are not coping, but we cannot live this life. We cannot do away with this life because people know this life.
Yeah.
So
But not Daniel is he's driving the latest BMW, is living in such and such place.
Yes.
And now you've created that impression, and you have to maintain.
and the life
that
is
lifestyle.
not sustainable.
Ah.
The life is not sustainable, and that's why you'll hear people say, "But what will people
Yeah.
say? If I downgrade, if I move back home to the
Yeah.
township,
I don't know.
if I buy a normal Polo." Yeah, there's a chapter on that, spending habits. Yeah, I also talk about the victim mentality to say because of what happened, now we always feel like we are victims. I give an example of someone who's disabled, and he goes to the traffic lights asking for money, and there's another guy who's disabled, he can't see, he goes somewhere in the CBD in Joburg, he plays his guitar.
Yeah.
And through his art, people are able to find him to give him money. So I'm saying to black community, we must stop feeling sorry for ourselves. Yes, what happened, but now we must dust off the ashes and start working hard as black people so that we become a better people.
I love that. Yeah. Because for me it also goes back to your philosophy in life. So if the example you've made of the disabled, the philosophy is that I'm disabled, therefore I cannot do anything. Yes. I have nothing to offer. So it's a self-defeating mentality. Yes. But the same person with a different person with the same condition, their philosophy is different. They say, you know what, I may have this disability, but what do I have? I've got a particular talent, and instead of using my disability as a crutch, I can just use my talent and gain the money that I want to use my talent and gain the income that I'm looking for and better my life. So that's a really powerful one. And then what are the other principles?
The last mentality is what I call laziness mentality. So laziness in this instance, when you look at South Africa, what we inherited from the Afrikaners after 1994, we've got world-class communication infrastructure, the roads, the airline infrastructure, everything was intact. And I'm saying, given the struggles that we've gone through as black people, we will need to work twice as hard for us to play catch up. Now remember, these white people inherited farms, they inherited wealth from their great grandparents who took from the state. And now, if we are to compete with them, we need to work twice as hard. And I'm not seeing that in black communities. We are so relaxed about it. As long as I get bread, as long as I'm able to look after my house, so even at work, you don't see that hunger that needs to be there in black guys to say I need to work twice as hard for me to be able to compete with my white fellows.
And what do you think is the underlying reason for that attitude?
Yeah, so all these things are interlinked. It goes back to the entitlement mentality.
Yes.
This is our country now, this is our thing, why should I work so hard? I need everything must be free. I need RDP, I need RDPs, we need this and this. So we are always demanding because we feel we're entitled. And therefore that kills the passion and the desire for one to work hard.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
And then the impact that you want this book is a powerful book. I mean, just from interacting with you on the content, it's a very necessary book. What is the impact that you envision this book having? What do you want this book to change in society?
So what I envisioned when I wrote the book is every time I read a book, I'm always trying to deal with our thinking.
Yes.
Because once you get the thinking right,
yes,
then everything will be okay. If you go to the Holy Scriptures, the Bible says, as a man thinketh, so is he. So if you can influence the mind or how people think or how people see things positively, then you are expecting to see positive action from those people. So I wrote it on that basis.
So you're dealing with the root issues.
Yes.
Which for me thinking is at the root level.
Yeah.
And then, you know, the roots always produce the tree, and the tree produces the fruit. So if you want positive fruits, we have to work at the roots. Wonderful.
Remember, apartheid was dealing with
the mind. It was all psychological, yes.
Very psychological. Even the education that they give us, very psychological. Now, for us to reverse everything, we need to deal with
this
again.
I think it was Steve Biko who said the most powerful weapon in the hands of the oppressor is the mind of the oppressed.
Yes.
So by dealing with the mind, if the illness is in the mind, then the cure has to go to the mind as well.
Yes.
Wonderful, powerful.
Yeah, so one critical thing that I spoke about in the book is the economic positioning of a black person.
Yes.
To say 20 years, 23 years into democracy, a black man is still struggling economically. Politically, we are free, we are okay. But economically,
financial freedom.
Yeah, it's not
economic
there.
Freedom,
it's not there. We are still living in poverty. I mean, very few black people are running their own big companies. I mean, we don't have a black bank after 23 years, and we're still depending on these white businesses. I mean, our banks are white owned or foreign owned, but after 23 years, there's no black bank that we can point and say,
this is ours.
This is ours. There is no major black TV channel that we can say, this is ours, that can compete with your SABC and your ETV. Something must be wrong. So I'm saying we must move away from consuming into becoming producers as black people. Because you realize that all these companies are targeting who? The black man. So, because he's a consumer, and not just a consumer, but a loyal consumer. When he buys a BMW, he buys a BMW. When he changes, BMW knows it's got a customer for life.
Yeah. After 2 years, renew it, get the new one.
I mean, the whole of Africa. There's no car coming from Africa.
And now the whole world is now beginning to see, okay, this is they've got a large consumer mentality, so we must be producers and they must be consumers. And where is the money going to? It's going back to them, which maintains the status quo of an impoverished Africa. But I'm very happy that people like you, authors like yourself, thinkers like yourself, are coming up and writing awesome books like this, and we are beginning to change the mentality, and I believe we'll see the fruits of the labor of people such as yourself who are working to change our mentality, change our philosophy, so that in the future we can see better progress. So your second book, Born for a Purpose, the ultimate reason for your existence. I love the title. What is it talking about?
So, as the title says, it talks about purpose.
Yes.
So, the rationale behind this book is every person that's alive today exists because there's a particular purpose that he must carry out in this world before he dies. Before he dies.
There's a quote I love by Miles Monroe. He said the richest place in the world is the graveyard, because so many people die with books that were never written, songs that were never composed, and they die without ever having lived or fulfilled their purpose.
True.
So in terms of some of the chapters, the content, what are some of the, let's say the first chapter, what does the first chapter talk about?
So the first chapter I talk about the why question.
Yes.
To say, for you to find your purpose, the best way is to start, ask the question why. Because as soon as you start you ask yourself why, you'll be able to get answers. And you need to tie it to everything about you. So I talk about the fact that your purpose is intricately connected to who you are. It's connected to your personality, it's connected to your passions, it's connected to your desires, the things that you aspire to accomplish. So you must take all those things and say, why do I like this music? Or why do I like speaking? Or why do I like spending time and writing stuff? And that way you are able to figure out your purpose if you do not know your purpose.
And why is it important for people to figure out their purpose?
Going back to Miles Monroe, he says, Where purpose is not known, abuse is inevitable. So when you don't know your purpose, you are likely to abuse yourself. You are likely to underutilize yourself, and you are likely to allow people to abuse you. I mean, if I don't know that I'm a great speaker, I'm losing out on opportunities to speak to people, to impact lives.
Impact lives, yes.
But there might be people who see that I've got an ability to speak, and they might start abusing me, scheduling me to go speak, and making money out of me. So the Miles Monroe's statement is very key. Where purpose is not known, abuse is inevitable.
Wow. And who did you have in mind when you wrote this book?
So when I wrote this book, it is primarily written for young people.
Yes.
Because that's critical, especially in your teenage years.
Yes.
It is important for you to discover who you are, so that throughout your life you are able to be led and guided by this purpose that you have discovered. So when I wrote it, I had young people in mind, but obviously the principles apply
across the board,
in any life. As an adult person, you must find your purpose. I talk about habits, bad habits. As an old person, you must deal with bad habits. I talk about peer pressure. As an old person, you're under pressure. You buy something you can't afford because your friend and your neighbor has got those things. So it's general principles.
And often when we think of peer pressure, for example, we think, teenagers, peer pressure, smoking. But it happens at all levels, at all stages of your life.
Yes.
Like you're saying, you might be a grown man with a family, but you've got peer pressure from your neighbor who's just bought the latest Benz or whatever.
And the wife says, honey.
What is he?
And you can afford it.
But then when you know your purpose, you know that I'm running my own race. I'm not competing with anybody. I've got my own race to complete.
So in the book, I always mention repeatedly that when you know your purpose, you must be able to tie every activity, every project you do to that purpose. So the studies you do, the relationship you establish, they must always talk to that purpose. So when I begin to say I want to go to university, the question is, how is this going to help me accomplish my purpose? When I meet confidence, I feel this is the connection I need. I must nurture this. Is it helping me to achieve my purpose? And I also talk about living a life that is always tying actions to consequences. So go deeper into that. To say, if I do this, what are the consequences? And would I be able to live with the consequences? For example, I give a scenario. If you sleep around and everyone say it was cock, what are the consequences? HIV, teenage pregnancy, you having to leave school to go work for your kid. Your parents might even expel you, the rejection and the shame, all those things. Think about those things before you engage in an activity. Yes.
And I mean, when you know your purpose, one of the things I believe is that your purpose also creates barriers, but good barriers. So it creates a barrier. It not only directs you into where you must go, but it also directs you. It also tells you where you shouldn't go. So I believe that's one of the powerful things about a purpose as well.
So it does create boundaries. So you know who to interact with, who not to
interact. Exactly.
Whether to sleep around or not, your purpose will tell you. You can't do that. Whether to spend time on alcohol, your purpose will tell you.
Exactly.
But if you don't have a purpose and you live anyhow, anything goes.
Exactly. I'm reminded of a verse in the scriptures that says, where there is no vision, the people perish. And I believe you can interchange the word vision with purpose. Where there is no purpose, the people perish because they are unruly. They can do and will do.
Lose control.
They lose control. Of anything becomes permissible.
That's
all right. Beautiful. Thank you for penning these wonderful books, my brother. And I believe they are uplifting people and they are really nourishing minds, changing mentalities, and taking our people to to the higher level that we really need to go to.
Yes.
Now I just want to delve a little bit into Dan the man, the family man.
Okay.
In terms of family, kids, I see a ring, so you're married. Can you tell us a little bit about your family life?
Yeah, so I've got 3 kids, 2 boys, 1 girl.
All right.
And I've been married for 13 years now.
Wow.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Yeah, it's been a journey, but a nice journey.
And
Yes.
in terms of what you do in your writing and your speaking, how has the family supported you, or how has it impacted your family life?
Yeah, the support is great, but also to a certain degree, the impact is positive and negative.
Okay, explain.
Because now you spend time away and you spend time writing. I do a lot of writing at night.
Yeah.
Which means during the day I'm asleep.
Yeah.
So I rob them of their time. But it is for a good use, and I try to manage that
Okay.
as far as I can.
All right.
Yes.
Wonderful. Brother, in terms of your legacy,
Yeah.
what do you want to be remembered for? I mean, when I speak to authors, what comes to mind is the fact that your books are going to outlive you.
Yes.
So even after Braden is long gone, these books will still be alive, and there will be, even your great grandchildren
Yes.
will be reading the works of their great grandfather.
Yes.
So in terms of legacy, what do you want your legacy to be? What do you want to be remembered for?
So I want to be remembered as a person that lived, impacted lives, and handed over to the next generation to continue to impact lives. So for me, it's not just about living for me, becoming famous, making money. I always want to help contribute in someone else's life. And the greatest achievement for me is when that person influences the other person.
People. Wow,
Yeah. So the way I see my life is, I want to influence life through art, which is writing,
Literature, yes.
and music. I also do music.
Oh, wonderful. I didn't know that.
Yeah. So possibly next year I'll be doing my CD.
Wow. No, we'll invite you back.
Yeah.
Even Daniel the musician. But brother, thank you so much for honoring us. It's been wonderful.
Thank you very much, Confidence.
Sharp.
Sure.
That was inspirational. I'm inspired. Thank you again for tuning in. You have been watching Talk with Confidence. Tune in again next time right here on Global Conference Television. Eitara.